Many months ago, the rumour mill started about the next generation of consoles. And most, myself included, fully expect Xbox to move away from discs and to go all digital. That was prompted by the Microsoft leak of documents last year, where they outlined plans for an Xbox Series X refresh. In the refresh, there was no disk drive. It was just a cylinder, and it had the words all digital. In that case, everything pointed towards Microsoft moving away from discs, going all digital, meaning that the next generation of console would follow suit right from the get-go. Compounded by the fact that discs on the Xbox just don't sell very well, and you can see this by just simply walking into CEX. If you pick up a game on the Series X and then pick it up on the PS5 and you compare the price, chances are the Xbox version will be significantly cheaper, sometimes half or even twice as cheap. Dead Space, for example, is £30 in CEX on the PlayStation 5, and it is just £10 on the Series X. It is the exact same game with almost the exact same experience, and yet one is £20 more than the other. That is because it's available on Game Pass, and Xbox is used by many as just a Game Pass machine. People don't tend to collect discs for that console. I'm the anomaly here. I am looking to collect discs for it. I'm actually saving my credit in my Series right now to buy a Series X for that purpose. However, Sarah Bond, the current president of Xbox, said a few months ago that the next generation of consoles will be the biggest generational leap we have ever seen.
And what we're really focused on there is delivering the largest technical leap you will have ever seen in a hardware generation.
And of course, she was specifically talking about Xbox and Microsoft. However, I would imagine the same will go hand in hand with Sony as well. But if we move back to Xbox for a second, that was said in like a panel where they needed like a crisis meeting essentially to make sure that everyone knew that Microsoft weren't going bust, Xbox wasn't closing down, and that consoles and games would continue. They of course put in that little podcast thing that they did that some exclusive titles were moving over to Sony and Nintendo, but for the most part it was just one or two games here or there, and it wasn't going to be the big IPs such as Gears of War. But running with that big generational leap, we have an email.
It was an email, not a memo,
that was sent out to Xbox employees and has been made public. So Monday just gone, Xbox created a new team within their company. Now this is quite big news because recently, of course, they binned off one of their, well, several, but one in particular of their teams, which was dedicated to bringing physical media to the market. And that was yet another nail in the coffin of physical media. Everyone thought that Microsoft was moving away from it, and that really didn't help the situation. They did clarify that they didn't necessarily need that team in order to bring physical games to the market, and that physical games weren't going anywhere. They didn't say anything about the next generation. They were specifically talking about the current generation. However, this new team is devoted to backward compatibility, ensuring old games can still play on newer devices like the next Xbox. Now that is a significant statement for many reasons. One, we know we're going to be able to play old games on the new generation of console. It hasn't actually said whether that's going to be physical or digital, but if you really read between the lines there, it has to mean both. Because why would they say old games can still play on newer devices? Because surely if you have it digitally, it will play. It's going to run, right? So to say ensure that they will still play means that they need to put the hardware in the machine itself in order to spin the discs. It's what the PlayStation 4 lacked. It was unable to play PS3 games due to the complex architecture of the PS3, even through that entire generation. Not that Sony needed it because the PlayStation 4 sold very well, but even through the entire thing, they didn't once bring out a PlayStation 4 console that could play PS3 games. And it was down to the architecture. So, Microsoft coming out and saying, we are dedicated, so much so that we've made an actual dedicated team to backwards compatibility, suggests to me anyway that the next generation of consoles will have a disk drive. So this is a direct quote. "We have formed a new team dedicated to game preservation, important to all of us at Xbox and the industry itself." That was written in an email that was made public on Monday. She also went on to say, We are building on our strong history of delivering backwards compatibility to our players, and we remain committed to bringing forward the amazing library of Xbox games for future generations of players to enjoy. That, to me, also suggests that we'll be able to play our discs. Now, the big concern that many have had for the last 12 months or so was the Xbox 360 store is closing, and I've mentioned it in a previous video, and there are dedicated videos about this from other creators, and if you want to go check them out, feel free to do so. But the state of the Xbox 360 store right now is diabolical. It's almost gone already. They've started taking things down. Now, many people were thinking, well, that's the end of it then. If it's gone, you won't be able to get it. But now that they have a backwards compatibility team dedicated to the current and indeed the next generation of consoles, I would imagine that nearly anything and everything that you can download currently through the 360 store, and even that has been taken down, especially exclusive stuff, it will find its way onto the current generation, probably through Game Pass, and if it doesn't, it will probably end up on the next generation. So I wouldn't worry too much if you're unable to secure the arcade game that you've wanted for a long time, because it will probably end up on another Xbox machine. Now, Microsoft haven't actually said an awful lot about the next generation of console, other than that it's going to be a big technological leap. And of course, there are rumours that Microsoft are working on a handheld. We all know the success of the Steam Deck. I mean, that thing is going from strength to strength. Of course, it's sort of died down a little bit now. If you're not in the space, you wouldn't have really heard an awful lot about it. When it first came out, a lot of people were on top of it. I wanted one myself. Still wouldn't mind picking one up, but they are fairly pricey, and of course, it's very difficult, if impossible, to upgrade them. So it's kind of one of those, like, you buy it and eventually it won't be able to run certain games. You'll need to buy the next one, and obviously that's the selling point of it from Steam's point of view. But from a consumer point of view, it could get a little bit irritating. But I suppose it's the same with anything, like an Xbox Series X, for example. When they bring out the new one, you can't upgrade your current one. You've got to go buy the new one. So it does make sense that it's basically a console or handheld console. But Microsoft are rumoured to be moving into the handheld space. We've had a handheld device of sorts from Sony, the Portal, of course, which doesn't really interest me at all, as it's not really a dedicated games console. It's essentially just a screen with like half a PlayStation 5 controller ripped and smashed together on the side of it. It is what it says on the tin, really. It's a portal. It sort of delivers the picture from your PlayStation 5 to your hands, which is kind of cool, and I can definitely understand why that would be a thing and why some people would want it. But in my opinion, Sony should have just gone all in and essentially revived the PS Vita, because handheld at the moment is massive. The Switch is huge. The Steam Deck has prompted all these other companies to start making these type of machines, and they are very, very popular. So it does make sense that Microsoft would want to get involved in this space, and I would imagine that their version of a handheld system would be pretty decent, and of course it will have Game Pass on it, and that can only be a good thing. But I once said I don't expect Microsoft to continue with discs in the next generation, and I have now completely done a 180 on this. I absolutely expect them to have a disc drive. The question is, will they bring out their next generation of Xbox with a disc drive, but it's specifically dedicated to backwards compatibility, and there is no new disc involved here? They won't release discs for the new games on the next generation. The disc drive will strictly be for Xbox 360, Xbox One and Series X games, and if you want to play the newest titles, I think it's Project Brooklyn right now it's called, that's like the code name. If you want to play those games, you'll have to play them through Game Pass or download them to what I would imagine will be a substantial hard drive in the next generation of consoles. If this next generation of console doesn't have like 2 terabyte hard drives built into them at launch, I think there might be a problem given the size of the games in 3 or 4 years' time. I mean, right now, you download Red Dead, it's like 150, 60, 70 gig or whatever. It's ridiculous. So can you imagine how big GTA 6, for example, is going to be? And then imagine we have these other AAA games that have these massive, expansive open worlds. Yeah, they're going to be huge. We need the space, especially if they do move away from discs. But what do you think? Are Microsoft going to bring out a next generation of console with a disc drive, but it's specifically for backwards compatibility? Or do you think the disc drive will be able to play the newest games? Will Microsoft continue with discs? If you ask me, I would say I think they will. I think we will see discs in the next generation of Xbox machines, which is not something that I would have said to you 3 days ago. I probably would have been on the fence, and 3 months ago I would have said, no, I don't think so, I think they're moving away from them. So it's amazing what a couple of emails can do, but I think they've seen a fair few people up in arms about them moving away from discs. A lot of people want them. Backwards compatibility for Xbox has always been a massive thing. So everything is pointing in the right direction as far as Xbox and Microsoft are concerned, and I am very happy to be reading these things. I just hope that they don't deviate from the plan in any way, and we get a next generation of consoles with a disk drive that is able to play all the way back to, I mean, hopefully the original Xbox, but the Xbox 360 at the very least, and that they continue to release new games for the platform. That would be phenomenal. And with how Game Pass is going as well, the console wars of the next generation could very well be won by Xbox. I will have a series video out for you guys in just a couple of days. If you want to check out a video from that series, you can click here, and until the next time, goodbye.